2 minutes. That was the entire duration of the encounter. I was watching from the corner of a crowded rooftop lounge in London. There was a woman there, radiating a don't bother me energy that most men find terrifying. Before this moment, 4 different guys had tried their luck. They approached with practiced smiles, talked for 3 or 4 minutes, and were dismissed with polite coldness. Then, he walked up. He didn't start with a cheesy line about her eyes. He didn't offer to buy her a drink. He didn't lean in with that desperate, entertain me energy. He whispered something I couldn't catch over the music. But her reaction was immediate. Within 20 seconds, her crossed arms dropped. By 50 seconds, she was leaning toward him, her glass forgotten on the table. By the 2-minute mark, she was the one leaning into his space, trying to keep him there. I eventually learned what he said, and I'll tell you shortly. But the specific words are secondary to the effect they created. They flipped the dynamic of pursuit. In every human interaction, there is an unspoken current, a pull. This pull is binary. Either you are being drawn into her world, or she is being drawn into yours. Most men operate as seekers. They lean in, they over-explain. They fill every silence with nervous chatter, and they treat the woman like a judge they need to impress. Women have a biological radar for this. They feel the direction of the gravity. If you are pulling toward them, you are immediately filed away as a chaser, someone whose value is lower than theirs because you are seeking their validation. But the man who creates pull toward himself is seen as a priority. He is the one worth figuring out. Arthur Schopenhauer observed this dynamic long before modern dating apps existed. He argued that the person who is most detached from the outcome possesses the greatest leverage. Not because wanting is inherently bad, but because the visible display of need is a surrender of status. Today, we are deconstructing how to reverse that pull. We aren't talking about tricks. We are talking about the actual engineering of a compelling personality. Robert Greene refers to this as creating an aura of mystery. It's about the strategic use of what is not said. We will break this down into 6 core pillars. The polarity shift, identifying who is chasing whom. The inquiry matrix, structuring questions so they demand her investment. Friction calibration, the art of being difficult in a way that creates heat. The tactical void, why your silence is more attractive than your speech. The layered disclosure, how to reveal your life like a slow-burning thriller. The peak departure, why you should always leave while the fire is still hot. Let's go back to the man in London. His opening statement was exactly 9 words. You look like someone who is incredibly bored by status. That was it. Why did it work? It was internal, not external. He didn't mention her dress. He mentioned her soul. It implied he saw something others missed. It was a cold red. It forced her to either defend herself or agree. Either way, she had to enter his frame of mind. He was the judge. He wasn't asking for her time. He was offering his observation. The gravity was already pulling her toward his perspective. Machiavelli wrote that a leader doesn't wait for a favorable wind. He creates the conditions for it. In conversation, you don't wait for her to like you. You create a situation where liking you is the only logical response. Most men approach like they are conducting a job interview. What's your name? Where do you work? Do you live nearby? These are empty questions. They have no weight. Carl Jung spoke about the imprint, the psychological anchor of a first meeting. If your first 60 seconds are spent as a seeker of information, you have imprinted yourself as a follower. Escaping that role is almost impossible. Before we get into the how-to, understand this. Words are the 10% on the surface. Energy is the 90% underwater. If your nervous system is screaming, "I hope she likes me," she will feel the desperation. Seeker energy says, "I need this to go well." Magnetic energy says, "I wonder if she's worth my time." The second one isn't about being a jerk. It's about being outcome independent. It's the difference between a salesman and a connoisseur. To create pull, you need 3 moves. The hook. You seem like the kind of person who is secretly a troublemaker. It's a statement, not a question. The pivot. When she agrees, you don't celebrate. You push back. I don't know, you might be too well behaved for the crowd I run with. This forces her to prove her edge to you. The distance. If she gets too comfortable, you look away. You check the room. You show her that your attention is a limited resource. That must be earned. Questions are weapons. Level 1, the administrative. Where are you from? Avoid these. Level 3, the existential. What is the one thing you're doing right now that your 5-year-old self would be proud of? Sigmund Freud noted that deep bonds are forged in the unspoken. When you ask a question that forces someone to look inward, you are excavating. But, and this is vital, you only ask these after she has already invested in the conversation. Don't dump your life story in the first hour. Revelation should be a reward. As Schopenhauer said, value is born from scarcity. If your life story is free, it's worth nothing. If it's hard to get, it's a treasure. The biggest mistake men make is staying until the conversation dies. If you wait for the lull, you have failed. Rule: leave at the peak. When she is laughing, when the connection is electric, that is when you stand up. I have to go, my friends are waiting, but I suspect there's more to you than this. By leaving at the high point, you trigger the Zeigarnik Effect. She will spend the next 3 hours finishing the conversation in her head. You have moved from a person she met to a person she is thinking about. Back to London. After 2 minutes of intense interaction, the man did the unthinkable. He didn't ask for her Instagram. He didn't ask to sit down. He simply said, "I've seen enough for one night. You're more interesting than I expected. Let's continue this when I can actually hear you." He took her number and walked away. He didn't look back. He had reversed the gravity, and he left her in the vacuum he created. Knowledge is just potential. Mastery is execution. In the next video, we'll talk about stress testing. Subscribe, and I'll see you in the field.